Hey everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel. And by the time you're seeing this video, I will have spent 1 year in Las Vegas. I can't believe it's already been a year, which is really crazy. But because it's been a year, my first year back in the United States after living in Japan for 3 years, I thought I would do a follow-up, part 2, wasteful things I hate about Las Vegas. I'm gonna be kind of doing a spin on it and like wasteful things I dislike about the entire country, just because as someone who had lived in another culture for 3 years and like the reverse culture shock I experienced, it has been very eye-opening to see how wasteful some of our habits are here, and so I just want to talk about that. So if you'd like to check out part 1, it is up here, and sorry in advance if I repeat anything, I am doing this completely unscripted, so let's just go ahead and jump right in. The first wasteful thing I hate about Las Vegas is the trash. Trash everywhere. I can almost guarantee I talked about this in the first iteration because that was the first thing I noticed upon arriving to Las Vegas was, wow, it is absolutely filthy. I've been in Tokyo, biggest city in Japan, and one of the biggest cities, I think it's the biggest city in the world. I can't even tell you how much litter I saw because I don't remember seeing any. Maybe like a little bit here and there. But for a comparison, I did an Earth Month trash pickup challenge. You can check out that video up here. But for that month, for the entire month of Earth Month from April 1st to the 30th, I tried to pick up 100 pieces of trash every single day. And it ended up being usually anywhere between 200 and 600 pieces of trash every single day in my neighborhood. I didn't have to like travel to anywhere in the city to pick up that much trash. Every day I walked around my own neighborhood and could find 100 or more pieces of trash. That's how much litter there is. That's how much my neighbors are littering. That's how much trash blows in, because it is windy right now, I'll give them that. But that's also because we don't really have public trash cans. Well, neither does Japan, and that's a whole nother topic. I recall seeing 2 public trash cans in all of Japan, with the exception that they do have trash cans in front of all of their convenience stores and in front of all of their grocery stores, which we don't really hear. Sometimes in front of grocery stores. But it's also a big issue that we have a large houseless population here in Las Vegas, and they don't have anywhere to dispose of their trash responsibly. So yeah, the litter problem is, I can't even comprehend how much trash there is just in Las Vegas, because I picked up 10,000 pieces in 30 days in my little neck of the woods. That's really disheartening. Let's move on to number 2, and that is water mismanagement. I made a whole video about this as well. You can check it out up here. Actually, there's 2 videos. Why I hate golf courses, because they are one of the largest contributors to the water mismanagement here in the Southwest. And 2, are we running out of water? The answer is yes, we are running out of water. It's not looking good. It's looking like we have 5 to 10 years left of water in Lake Mead and Lake Powell, the 2 biggest reservoirs down here in the Southwest, 2 biggest reservoirs in the whole country. So yeah, it's not looking good. Plus, it's paired with a drought. We've been in a drought for 24 years now, and the water mismanagement is real. What I mean is, I've seen sprinklers for medians, for the plants that they have in the medians to make it pretty, that are unnecessary, shooting out into the road. They're not even watering the plants. So there's stuff like that. Golf courses. There are 76-ish golf courses in Las Vegas alone. It's in that video about why I hate golf courses, the exact statistic, but it's something like the amount of water that one golf course uses in one day is equivalent to the amount of water that a family of 4 uses in an entire year. One golf course in one day. Not to mention the allowance of non-native plants to live here in the desert, grass, palm trees, other tree species that don't belong here. They require so much water because they're not drought friendly, because they're not desert plants. So we're wasting water on non-native plants for decoration only. These plants serve no purpose other than to look pretty. Grass in general is a wasteful thing I hate about Las Vegas. I can't believe people brought grass here to the desert. I'm so angry. And it's allowed. I can't believe grass is still allowed when we only have 200 feet of water left in Lake Mead. Anyway, and then also it comes down to farming practices as well, and things like car washes and local pools and fountains. There's so many ways that we are misusing and mismanaging water down here. It's becoming a real issue, and it's starting to get really scary. I already touched on golf courses. That is number 3 things I hate about Las Vegas. Again, you can check out the full video above or below. I'm not going to dive into it too much here, and we already talked about it a little bit. They're completely wasteful, not to mention I hate golf in general because of the amount of land that it takes up, the amount of water, the amount of fertilizer, the amount of gasoline that it takes to mow them, the golf balls getting hit into local ponds and then becoming litter. It is just a huge environmental issue for a few hours of fun for some rich white men. That's my demographic. I'm very confident I didn't mention this one in my last iteration. I regretted not mentioning it, and that is Las Vegas has the blackest asphalt I have ever seen. Why is this wasteful, you may ask? The desert is already hot. The desert does not have very many plants to sequester the carbon and keep the ground cool. So, you know, I guess that is one of the perks to grass in the desert. It is considerably cooler standing on the grass versus on the sidewalk. Like the heat radiates off the sidewalk and the ground. That being said, I still don't think grass should be here. But the asphalt being as dark as it is, it's like literally the blackest black you can ever picture. That reflects so much heat. If it was gray or even white, I have seen instances of them using white or using more concrete instead of asphalt, it would absorb a little more heat and not bounce so much back. It would make the city cooler, I think. Not considerably, but I'm like, this is like, we're right next to Death Valley, the hottest place in the country, and they're using the darkest asphalt, making the city even hotter. Is it wasteful? I guess so, because you know, like, if you think about the polar ice caps, it being white snow, it absorbs more of the heat instead of bounces it back. Same thing I would imagine with the colors of the asphalt. Oh, I had another one along those lines. Oh, number 5, I believe we're on number 5, Las Vegas is still expanding. It's not that big of a city. It's only about 2.5 million people, you know, in the grand scheme of bigness of cities. Population-wise, it's not that much. Land-wise, I'll put it up right here because I don't know the exact amount, but for a quick comparison, the amount of time that it takes for me to drive from my end of the city, which is the north end, to the south end of the city, is like an hour. On the highway, too. Going like 70 miles per hour. What is that, like 100 kilometers per hour or so? An hour. One city, to cross one city. Meanwhile, when I lived in Ohio, I could travel across like a third of Ohio in 1 hour. Obviously, you know, the state is bigger, but like, I'm just trying to put into perspective the urban sprawl here. This is not a city that has built up. And a lot of Western cities are that way because there's so much land out here. Now, a few things. Las Vegas is completely surrounded by public land, Mount Charleston Wilderness, Red Rock, Sloan Canyon, and so forth. So the city doesn't have that much farther to go. Like there is actually a boundary to which the city can expand. But also, bringing it back to point number 1, or number 2, water mismanagement, whichever one that was. We already don't have enough water to accommodate the 2.5 million people living here. Why are we trying to get more people to move to Las Vegas? We don't have enough water. If we don't have enough water, we're not gonna have enough food. And once we run out of water, like, water is the center of life, you know? If Las Vegas runs out of water, people are moving. Then there's not going to be any income. And Vegas is definitely a city focused on income and tourism. Like, that's why so many people travel here, is for the tourism, which I don't understand now as like a local. So yeah, I think it is very irresponsible that they are expanding the city during this drought. A wasteful thing, what are we on, number 6, that I dislike in general about the United States? Lack of recycling education and lack of recycling resources. In Japan, they made it so simple. They outlined it very clearly. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to recycle, and so forth. Like, very clearly, it needs to be clean, dry, and sorted. In the US, they're just kind of like, you can recycle if you want. And also the accessibility. In Japan, recycling is mandatory. Everyone, even in apartment buildings, everyone recycles. Apartment buildings have like a dumpster and then a recycling dumpster as well. I have so many friends who live in apartment buildings here and don't have access to recycling. So yeah, that just kind of blows my mind. Especially with things like metal. Metal is such a valuable material to collect. I get it, you know, plastic is not a very valuable recycling system. Recycling plastic typically costs more than making brand new plastic, but it's not that way with metal. Glass typically as well. And I imagine paper too, because it takes a lot of resources to grow a tree to cut down to use as paper. Recycling education, resources, and availability is really lacking in the United States. And then just kind of tie it in with that, composting as well. There wasn't composting in Japan either, but it's just something I hate, I guess, about all societies. Is that recycling is not common. It's not mainstream. People don't know what compost is. And it really got me thinking with the whole war in Ukraine. Russia decided to quit the export of ammonium, I think it was, which is like the number 1 fertilizer we use on corn, and we're like the number 1 exporter of corn in the world. So that's just a whole snowball effect. But imagine if we composted. We wouldn't have to rely on other countries for their fertilizer. We could make our own fertilizer from our food waste. Not only food waste, from paper, from bioplastics, and so forth. Like, we already use manure from cows, which is free. Why don't we reuse food waste, which is also free? I don't know. And then we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up with this last one, which I know for a fact I mentioned in the first iteration, but it's very frustrating to me, and that is lack of public transportation in this city. This city, I personally think, has a great highway system. Maybe not great. I think it's pretty good. They have like a highway that runs perimeter around the whole city. All of the roads like intersect at points. It's very easy to navigate. I think it's also set up perfectly for a train system. Las Vegas would be such a great city for it, and I think they could still do it because of the urban sprawl. You know, I think it would be very easy to add a train system. There are several buses, but I looked it up once. I'm like, you know what? I think it'd be cool to take a bus to go get lunch or whatever. It takes like 4 hours. When in a personal car, it takes 20 minutes. There's no incentive for people to use public transportation unless you can't afford a car. Unless you're only taking the bus one stop over. You know, you're just taking it to your local grocery store, your local library, or something close. But if I want to travel to the other end of town for lunch or for a hike, it's going to take me several hours on a bus. So it's just not feasible. It's not practical for me to use public transportation. You know, my commute is already 45 minutes driving because of the traffic. I would have to wake up at like 3 a.m. if I wanted to take a bus to work because it's on the other end of town. So the public transportation is lacking so bad here, but also throughout the whole country. So that's something wasteful I hate about the US in general, but especially Las Vegas, because I think Las Vegas could thrive on public transportation. But again, it all comes down to profits. Who's probably lobbying for laws to not be passed for public transportation? The gas and oil industry, and probably tire companies as well. So it is really sad. It's also really frustrating how they're making the Tesla tunnel, whatever it's called, in Las Vegas. It's like the first city to get one. It's just a very elitist and not accessible mode of transportation. Like, you have to own an electric vehicle, and I've also seen reviews on the internet that it's not even practical, even for Teslas. But I'm like, really? This city can spend money on a Tesla tunnel, but they can't spend money on a subway system? It's really frustrating. Yeah, I think we're just gonna leave it at that. Basically, Las Vegas is a dirty city that is not designed at all for community, for public transportation, for accessibility, or anything in between. Yeah, if you live in Las Vegas, which I met a lot of people on TikTok who also live in Las Vegas in like the eco-ish realm, let me know what you hate about Las Vegas. Honestly, it doesn't even have to be eco. What do you hate about Las Vegas in general? I guess we'll add one more, a number 9. It's not necessarily wasteful, it's just a disgusting thing. It's all tied back to the public transportation. Because there's no public transportation, there's so much air pollution. Las Vegas is a valley. It's like a bowl. There are some mornings you can see the layer of smog across the city. It's disgusting. And I have real sinus issues because of it. I just spent a week backpacking and I was breathing so well, and I'm already congested, and I've only been back in the city for 24 hours, so that's lovely. But yeah, let me know what wasteful things you hate about Las Vegas or your respective city. If you live in an eco-friendly city, I would love to hear what your city's doing well, and maybe we can all try to make our cities more eco. We can go to town halls, we can write to our governments, and so forth, which I have 2 videos now on how to find your lawmakers and effective letter writing to write to your lawmakers. So check those out above and below. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I really appreciate your time. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and feel free to share this video with others if you think they would benefit from it. And as always, remember that your small actions have a big impact in the long run. Bye guys. It has been very eye-opening to see how wasteful some of our habits are. It's been very eye-opening to see how some of... Oh my gosh. Let's see. What else do I hate about Las Vegas? That's just such an elitist, not... Oh, were you outside? You're toasty. Oh, you're so warm. It's just very an elitist